In a Missouri neighborhood in 1945, a question arose that would reshape civil rights. Can restrictive covenants exclude a minority from owning property in a neighborhood? To answer this question, we look to the case of Shelley versus Kraemer.
The Kraemers, a white couple, had entered into a neighborhood covenant, where 30 of the 39 property owners agreed that no black persons could purchase property in the neighborhood. The restrictive covenant was signed in 1911. The Shelleys, an African-American couple who were unaware of the covenant, purchased a home in the neighborhood in 1945 and were met with opposition. Geez, talk about hating your neighbors. The Kraemers and other neighbors then sued the Shelleys for being in violation of the covenant. In the trial court, the attorney for the Shelleys, George Vaughn, convinced the court that the restrictive nature of the covenant could not be enforced because not all the property owners had agreed to the covenant, but the decision was appealed. The Missouri Supreme Court then reversed the decision made in the trial court and ordered the Shelleys to leave the property. The case was appealed again by the Shelleys, and the U.S. Supreme Court agreed to review the case, amalgamating the case to 3 other cases that dealt with the validity of restrictive covenants. When this case reaches the Supreme Court, the constitutional question the justices had to ask themselves was, does the enforcement of a racially restrictive covenant, especially by the state, violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment?
Thurgood Marshall, the Shelleys' attorney, argued that the lower courts were in violation of the 14th and 5th Amendments. By intervening, the courts had created a situation where the state action doctrine of the 14th Amendment had applied. The defense attorney for the Kraemers and the other neighbors argued that the racially restrictive covenant had been a private contract. They also argued that the covenant was not a government agreement and therefore could not be in violation of the 14th Amendment. The United States Supreme Court ended up ruling in favor of the Shelleys, arguing that the 14th Amendment did in fact protect them. The Supreme Court elaborated that the covenant itself was constitutional when it was private, but when the plaintiffs sought the help of the state government to enforce the covenant, it became unconstitutional because the states are prevented from enforcing discrimination on one group of people because of the 14th Amendment. To conclude, because the covenant could not be federally enforced, there was no point in having a covenant in the first place. This case moved America one step closer to the racial desegregation and equality for African Americans.
Created using Powtoon.